Hey everyone, welcome to week 11 of the college football season. My name is Mike Browning. I'm the host of College Football Road Trip at cfbroadtrip.com. I've just recently posted about my trip to Western Kentucky a couple weeks ago, so go to the website, check it out. I should be posting about my trip to the Missouri-Kentucky game in the torrential downpour probably sometime this weekend, so be on the lookout for that too. In the meantime, we have a few great matchups this weekend. It's probably the biggest weekend of the season so far this year. So with that said, let's jump right into this week's picks. Our first game is a matchup of two undefeated Big Ten teams. We have number 4, Penn State, traveling to number 17, Minnesota. Minnesota is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest surprise of the year to be undefeated so far into the season. The problem is now they're starting to play some really good teams, including an undefeated Penn State team that would be in the playoffs today if it started. And I think Penn State's going to have just too much on their side for Minnesota to continue their undefeated streak. So I'm going to have to pick Penn State to win on the road at Minnesota in Big Ten play. Our next matchup is a Big 12 matchup featuring another undefeated team. We have number 12 Baylor traveling to TCU in Fort Worth. Just like Minnesota has been a big surprise, Baylor has been right up there with them as far as being this late in the season, being still undefeated. They're traveling to a TCU team in a Big 12 that has been up and down, and you can't tell what's going on. So the question is, will Baylor be able to pull it off for another week? I think they will. I think they will be able to pull off the win and go into the Big 2 matchups against Oklahoma and Texas over the next 2 weeks, both at home. I think going undefeated, and that's going to be a big deal. So I'm going to pick Baylor to win at TCU in Big 12 play. Next, let's go to another Big 12 matchup. We have number 16, Kansas State, traveling to Texas. Kansas State pulled off the big upset against Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. They were able to pull off another win against Kansas. They are looking really good. The coach has things going in the right direction there, where I think a lot of people had them in the lower tier of the Big 12 this year. On the flip side, you have Texas. They lost to Oklahoma. They barely got by Kansas. They lost last week to TCU. They just don't have a whole lot going their way. Their secondary is just absolutely depleted. And because of that, I think Kansas State is going to continue their momentum against Texas this week. I'm going to pick number 16, Kansas State, to win at Texas in Big 12 play. Next, let's go to an ACC matchup. Number 19, Wake Forest, traveling to Virginia Tech. I talked about Wake Forest last week and everything they had going their way and the way they were trying to go in their division. Of course, they're in the same division as Clemson. That could be a fascinating matchup in a couple weeks. But in order for it to be important, Wake Forest has to win at Virginia Tech this week first. And I think they will. Wake Forest has had a lot of really good matchups. They've won some good games. I think they'll continue it forward. Number 19, Wake Forest will win at Virginia Tech this week. Let's move over to the Pac-12. We have USC traveling to Arizona State. USC is a team that it's kind of been hard to figure out. A lot of people are calling for the coach's head, especially if they think that Urban Meyer can go in there and take over the coaching capabilities. Herm Edwards had a great start this season. They haven't looked as great over the past couple weeks. So because of that, I think USC is going to be able to continue the momentum. I think USC is going to win this game. USC will win at Arizona State in Pac-12 play. Let's go to a Big 10 matchup next. We have number 18, Iowa, traveling to number 13, Wisconsin. Just a couple of weeks ago, Wisconsin was one of those teams that people thought might be a playoff team, but then they lost to Illinois, then they got destroyed by Ohio State. Iowa, on the flip side, has lost a couple of games. Also, they lost to Penn State. But I just think Wisconsin's trending in the wrong direction, especially after losing their possible playoff momentum that they had just a couple weeks ago. So because of that, I think Iowa could pull off the upset here. I'm going to pick Iowa, number 18 Iowa, to go and win at number 13 Wisconsin in Big Ten play. Next, let's go to an SEC matchup. We have Missouri traveling to number 6 Georgia. I was just at the last Missouri game in Lexington in the rain, where Missouri only scored 7 points in the entire game. Granted, it was in a downpour, but the problem is Missouri just cannot win games on the road. They're currently 0-3 on the road, and traveling to a team like Georgia, they're easily going to fall to 0-4 on the road. Georgia is going to win this game pretty handily. Missouri will lose. Number 6 Georgia will win over Missouri. Next, let's go to another Big 12 matchup. A lot of good Big 12 games this week. We have Iowa State traveling to number 9 Oklahoma. Both of these teams are coming off losses. Iowa State recently lost to Oklahoma State. OU already mentioned in their loss to Kansas State. The question is, which one of these teams will turn it around and win this week? Oklahoma is coming off a bye week. Oklahoma does not lose coming off bye weeks. I think that trend is going to continue this week. They have too much to play for. They will turn it around. Oklahoma will win over Iowa State at home in Big 12 play. Let's go out west to a Mountain West matchup. We have Wyoming playing number 22 Boise State. Both of these teams have looked pretty good so far. Wyoming does have one loss in conference play, and Boise State is playing at home on the blue turf, where they usually play really, really well. So I'm going to have to pick Boise State to win in this Mountain West matchup. Boise State over Wyoming at home in Mountain West play. So now for our final matchup, let's just go to the big matchup of the week. I put this one to the end just because of how huge it is. This is the one that everybody's been talking about for the past 2 or 3 weeks. We have number 2 LSU traveling to number 3 Alabama. Both of these teams undefeated. Both of these teams have looked great. LSU has looked even better than Alabama has. That's why they're ranked ahead of them in the playoff polls. The problem with this game for me is that the game is in Tuscaloosa. I think if the game was in Baton Rouge, that LSU could pull off this win at home. But the fact that they're going to have to go on the road, the fact that Tua is likely going to be coming back from injury, I think Alabama's going to have the slight momentum in this game. And so because of that, I'm going to pick Alabama to win this game. Number 3 Alabama over number 2 LSU in Tuscaloosa this week. That's just one of the amazing matchups. We've talked about the Penn State-Minnesota game, the LSU-Alabama game. It's just a lot of great games to go out and watch this week. Go out and do that. Enjoy the games. Again, go out to my website, cfbroadtrip.com. Check out my story on my trip to Bowling Green. Get ready to check out my trip on Lexington. It's going to be a lot of fun. We will see you again next week for Week 12. In the meantime, enjoy the games, everyone.